So are the views say...
Hi, I'm here at Eastside Gallery, and I am working on this piece, The Deer Rider. I've been working on it for years, but I'm now down to peacock feathers and a little bit of the background until I'm done. If you're in the area, stop by, or if you're watching on live, feel free to put a question in. We'll try and answer your questions if we see them. And the fun thing about feathers and fur is I get to make all the little lines that they are comprised of. These peacock feathers have so many different iridescent colors in them. They're a lot of fun to discover.
So it's viewed as semi-protein?
Junior, yeah.
It's a junior league, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So every once in a while you can get up and check and see if there's been any question that anybody wants to put in chat. You're welcome to put them in. Some of these feathers you have to do individually, the bigger ones in here. Some of them it's more like an overall shape. There's so many different types of feathers. I was doing this strictly as colored pencil before, but it's very large, so a lot of times I'll add some gouache, like underpainting for larger areas. This is all 100% colored pencil. I just added the gouache this past week for some of the final areas. I just figured it's been going on too long.
So, well, this program is based on sort of practical things. Yeah, I did for a long time, apparently, that we're just going to try to make them as small as possible. Instead of recognizing that they have severe issues and trying to make them function. Right. So,
and you'll see that I'm working from a photo reference or two, but even though I am, a lot of times I redraw whatever it is that I'm looking at. This is just a reference, like this is just a reference for fire, but I've drawn my own. And this is just a reference for peacock, but I've had to put it in the position it needs to be.
Does he do success?
Just photo references are like sketches where you just need to know, well, what happens when, this happens and the fold of all these feathers comes together, and I noticed that it gets very red in that area. So I'm adding my sienna brown in there. Or terracotta, whichever one I'm using. Yes, it's sienna brown.
Yeah, it is. I like the idea that it would be more practical and functional. Because, some people are never going to be organized. That's who they are, right? It's kind of like Steve. He's an artist, and he's really big. It's rough looking, he's got a really good voice. I don't know who's trying to talk and pretending he's mean at art shows, because I think people have a lot more art.
If they were intimidated by the artist?
Yeah, that's right, I know.
Doug has said that.
With that ball, then I don't really want to buy it.
They'll buy more art if they're intimidated by the artist.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's true. I think there's some truth to that. So do you like hockey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when my sons played it, that's when I learned about it, and all of a sudden I like hockey. It's a game, it requires some knowledge before you understand it, because it happens so quick.
It does.
And it's so, the situations change so rapidly.
I still don't understand them all.
Well, you begin to see patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps if you watch soccer. Soccer's similar in a lot of ways to hockey in that the scoring is low. You have a goalie.
Do they have the thing where they take people off the ice off the...
Yeah, but it's permanent. So what they have in soccer, they have a system of cards. If you get a red card, you're removed from the game, period, and you're not allowed to have anybody replace you. Right? So, and 2 yellow cards equals a red card. So they usually give out yellow cards if someone's misbehaving, but if they misbehave enough, then they get a second yellow card, then that counts as a red card and they're kicked out. There's an element of acting that's involved in soccer. Someone runs by you and you want to foul, so you act like they broke your kneecap, roll around on the ground and scream for a while until they give you a penalty. But what you see is the same kinds of patterns: the passing, the moving the puck around, the cycling. I love coaching. It's such a yeah.
Just let me know if anybody asks a question or if anybody's watching. Probably have no one watching.
Oh, there is.
There are people watching. Hi, people watching.
We're watching.
Yeah, but you can't see what I'm doing from over
No,
there.
but I'm getting vibes from you. So
Vibes.
well, I've been married for almost 4 years, so I am beginning to understand my wife a little bit. I can almost know what she's thinking. Not quite. Getting there.
Colored pencil takes forever.
Yes, it does.
Takes forever and ever. Where did I put my little scratchy thing?
But there was never a viewer that said, boy, it looks like it really takes her forever. I wish she hadn't spent so much time doing it.
Exactly.
Never a viewer said that.
No. There are times when people look at some art and say, I wish the person had spent a little more time on that.
Yes, that's true, but they never say the opposite.
Right.
Okay.
If they just pushed it that other little bit. So what I'm using is a slice tool, which actually it doesn't slice into the paper. It just cuts into the wax a little bit, creates some grooves. Sometimes that's a nice texture, or that's the color that you want, but what you really want to do is say, that's a little area that I've exposed the tooth of the paper again, and I can add lights onto it. And then amazingly enough, your darks will just fall into the grooves next to it.
So what strikes me about your photographs is the emotion.
So that they become highlighted like that. Those long hairs. Which should be yellower.
Yeah, I think
Did them with white first and then
color
add
doesn't
yellow.
create emotion. Lights and darks. And painters don't believe me. And, there is some emotions, I guess.
If there's ever anything that you want to ask and you put it in text, then my daughter will read it out to me. Can you see text if somebody puts it? So you can ask a question, anybody
I guess there's
who's
something to that.
there, because I will be working on,
And blue does present a sort of a calming effect.
you can see this as I get darker, you can see how it falls in between.
I appreciate
So don't make the mistake when you're using your slice tool of just saying, oh, that's cool what I got with the slices. It's, I did the slices and then go over it with your light. Let it grab on. Because that's the main thing about working on paper is we lose the tooth of the paper.
The other thing
The more layers that you put on. And so to get some of the texture, you want to bring it back in some way. So that you can do more layers. Pastel artists have a different thing because they can keep on adding layers and keep on adding layers. But some of these areas that are already kind of shiny, they have so many layers, it would be hard for me to add a color on top and see it. It just kind of, they're semi-transparent, so they just end up blending in. They mix with what's underneath, so it's like, here's my palette, I have a dark, if I put a lighter blue, it's just gonna mix with it, but it's not gonna stand alone. So if I went back in and gave some individual hairs a little push like that, and then I should have a brush to brush it off with that. And then take a lighter color and allow it to grab on to those exposed areas. And take a darker color, my indigo, and let it fall in between to highlight them. That's how you get that.
Well, I came to see your demonstration.
Yeah, I'm recording, so if you have any other questions, you can ask me while I'm doing this.
Hello.
Ask
Yeah,
her
you can
about
just
the
watch.
gross national product of Uruguay. See if she knows.
Oh
the
my
answer to that.
God, the questions are tough here.
You drop it.
So I didn't bring it with me, I left it at home, but Laura Lee Palmer, who did the coloring books for me, she left her card again for you. She felt bad.
Penny from 10,000 feet. How fast is he going as he gets close to the ground? Let's ask her that.
Now that's distraction.
Oh, all right.
You know,
They're just really bad.
I'm not hearing the question.
you're a fiend. You just want us to start doing calculations. Nah.
So Laura Lee was here for my opening. She's the one who did the coloring books for Kensington and everything.
Uh-huh.
And I showed her your work, and she said, oh, that'd be so easy to do this into a coloring book. And she gave me her card, and she said, I feel so bad because you asked me like 2 years ago, and I never got it. She had some other medical issues, I think, and other things going on. But yeah, she gave me her card to give to you, so
Okay, thank
I'll make sure I get it to you by the meeting or sometime, or
That's
send it to you. Yeah, because your work would be so good for that.
Yeah, I haven't been in the mood recently, but I'm sure it will come back to me.
They're also going to do another Kensington one. She said based on events. So if you have anything that fits that, I know yours are more close up
No.
things, but I mean, I told her I had the Noise Children's Library, and I had done it like it was a big event with, you know, kids and balloons and stuff, so that will fit perfectly. She just has to name the imaginary event that it's supposed to.
I've been rejected every year.
I'm sorry, we haven't met.
This is,
No.
oh, this is Kiana. Kiana Nobles. And she's a photographer. So her work is, and we also have another, they're right behind Doug over there.
Yeah.
And there's some more in the back.
Oh, nice.
And we also got, I don't know if you've met him before, Mark Rothkopf also joined us, and he does photography and oil painting. So we've got, I think we're closed for 2D because they said on that last email that went out, it said actively looking for 3D artists. It only mentioned the 3D artists.
The only thing I will say about that is that if an extraordinary 2D artist shows up, we're not going to turn it.
Right. But it said actively looking for. Yeah.
Which, what does that mean? I'm sitting here right now, that's not very active.
I don't know.
I think it'd be nice to get Potter.
Oh.
But I've asked all the Potters I know, and nobody says anything.
Really? I have to ask. I have to ask again because I know potters and I know some
Most
good
of them are
ones.
selling just fine out of their own places, so.
Right, and they do
why
the
would they want to
events.
spend money to be part of the gallery?
Well, the thing is, then you always have. Like I did all the events with art and everything, and I'd rather it was always in one place rather than doing all the events.
Yeah, I don't like doing events at all.
No. And it's a pain in the neck with 2D art, and especially my work's on paper and it starts to suddenly rain and your tent blows away or something.
The less I move my art, the better.
Exactly. So here I am, and I said I was working on a peacock, and I start skipping around. I don't know why I put more yellow on this side of the hair, but I think I wanted it to have more highlight from the fire.
Now, when you do your white pencil on top of stuff, it shows up white.
It depends what.
So,
It depends what. Okay, so what it was is, say over here, I probably wouldn't get very much. So, I mean, I would get a little. So, and if there's white underneath, there's a point where, say right over here, if I put white there, it's blending with what's underneath. So, don't really need to do that, so I'll cover that up. But
And which white pencil were you using?
I've got several. So what I was going to say was, here's your white Prismacolor pencil. And this bit of paint here I put was gouache. So gouache has a chalkiness to it that it can grab onto. And I think I wanted like the little edge of her hair here because the fire to have a little more, you know, something. So you can do that. This one is Caran d'Ache Pablo's. It's pretty good too. Okay, I'm going to use that to clean up this little thing on the peacock. And that. But the one where it really draws on top of color very well, let me put it up in the diamonds in her tiara, is this is Caran d'Ache too, but it's Museum Aquarelle, so it's a watercolor pencil. you could use it wet. I'll just lick it.
Oh.
And I could use it wet like a watercolor pencil, but working dry, it's the one that really can draw on top of dark very well.
Oh, okay.
So, what did I do with the formations of her hair curls? I sort of went against them, but anyway. Yeah, this will bring back a whiter white. So this is the one that works on top. So I have a video up on YouTube, and it's called All the Whites in the Pencil Box. And I test like 11 different whites against each other. And that's kind of fun to see what they do. And I think I was testing them on black paper for the most part. So yeah, you can bring things back, but once you've lost the tooth of the paper, like still too much tooth showing through here for my taste, because I like it to look more painted. But I also want this to look like fur. So I've got to be somewhere in between. Because I don't like all that paper tooth showing through. But anyway, when the paper tooth is gone, in the areas that look shiny because they're so layered up, you're not going to get much on top anyway.
Okay.
So you always have to put your whites down first. But everybody works different in colored pencil. And I want it to look like a painting, and somebody else is working and wanting it to look like pencil, or everybody's taste of how many layers they want to have. Figure the bird should probably have
Something I read when I was a child.
some little light along that edge as well. So yeah, I would put down Prismacolor probably first as an underlayer because it's waxy. But if I need to get something on top, I'd probably use one of those drier pencils, like the watercolor pencil that I was using dry. I don't know, that's not right. It needs to be like a highlight, like yellow or something. To be. Yeah, that's cool, because that's mixing. Is this neon? That's lemon yellow. It's almost the same thing.
So the first layer for this was gouache?
Well, the first layer is, if you can see the paper, it's this color. It's like a pale green.
Okay.
And so that's like as though you gave it like one layer of watercolor. I still have all the tooth of the paper with a color if I use colored paper.
Yeah.
So since I know there's going to be lots of green, she's wearing green, there's grass, you're in a forest, there's all this green, even the peacock. Then you have green showing through when you have space. But like on the deer, I don't really want that greenish color showing through. So I want to go back and, give it another layer of whatever color a deer is. And what color is a deer? Grayish, kind of, right?
Yeah.
But not grayish. I want it to be like a tan gray. Like light umber or something. What are your favorite pencils? Are you
Me?
A Prismacolor person?
Well, I'm not sure because I have such a mix. I think I bought some Prismacolor and some watercolor stuff, but my stuff is still so undeveloped. I don't even know if I could answer the question, because I've got that's why I'm watching. But I'm still obsessed with hatching, and it's not doing what I want it to do. Hatching.
Sitting on eggs?
Well, it will so say when I'm doing a face, and it ends up being this smooth, but my strokes are your cat strokes are going with the shape of the cat, and I'm going with the shape of the person. You get to a point where it's so blended so it looks like skin. But you see here, you could say that the bird's shorter feathers on the neck are almost like the hatching that you do, where you're, getting an area and whatever, and then this area is going that way. But the thing with feathers is and fur, is that you want to layer it up till it's like this.
Yeah.
Till it looks like there's feathers on top of feathers on top of feathers. If you're going for feather texture rather than just the form texture with the hatching, which is just kind of, you're getting the form or you're getting the actual texture of. I jump around a lot too. I think I'm like a painter in that way, that I'm like I want it all to build up in a layer. And I have these little deer back here, but I decided I was going to make them more just kind of shapes. So I painted over them because then I'm just going to come back in and they'll be rough shapes. Kind of like the trees in the background. They're just sort of smoky shapes. And then I'm putting more highlight and probably another layer of fur back here. He's pretty done up here. And then these feathers I just did, and kind of going into all of them little by little, getting them done. I've been looking at people who do feathers very, very well. You know, Alan Willett is one of those for anybody listening on live. And they don't necessarily do an individual feather. It's more like the movement of the feathers. And then where you need to. Like these guys need a lot of detail. These are grouped. This is just a texture. You're not really seeing individual.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I think I'm just learning how to take enough time. You know, at the beginning, I'm very impatient, I guess, and I haven't learned the patience.
Right.
You know, so I'm just.
And that's what we were just saying right before you walked in. You know, while I was sort of saying, color pencil takes a long time. But Doug said nobody ever says, I wish that person didn't spend that much time. And then I was saying, if there are times when people go, I wish they'd spend just a little more time on something to build it up just a little bit more. So hard to tell indigo from black.
And I guess I've just you have to go through the whole process a couple times to have faith in it, you know.
You do. And that's why I think that a lot of people, even though they're getting to be very accomplished artists, and I even did this during the quarantine, was attending, you know, like a Zoom class live with someone drawing. Not even just the recorded, but attending live with them, because you start seeing how long it takes. And if you're drawing along with them, you know, like I allow my students to all be drawing their own thing, but you're drawing along with somebody else who's drawing along, and you start going, it does take this long, and you have company through it. Like there's somebody, and there's a sort of deadline to shoot for the critique and everything. So people get that. I know I felt that way, like I just have company while I'm doing something that takes a really long time to do. Because if I did a layer, I could have done a whole layer of the whole thing by now and be coming back for a second layer if it was something like acrylic, and I could, and it would be dry and I could come back with it. There's this feather that's very bright. And then there's other ones that are semi. I may have done too many, but they're just kind of dark shapes at that point. And I have the dark side of it. That's the indigo. And where's my dark gray?
You type there, keep your face closer to the screen.
That's what it is.
What are you writing?
Oh, I'm just working on
This is live?
This is live.
Okay. Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
so I should be mindful of
And
that.
now you're on TV.
Yeah, but you get to ask all the questions that like other people are not. Unless anybody asked a question up there.
No.
You've been checking it? Yeah. But you're welcome to people out there in life, land.
And then now for setting this up, did you draw freehand or did you draw?
Different things.
Oh yeah, I see.
Like this is her when she was young. And that was projected. And this deer, I have drawn him like 6 or 7 different times on here. God knows if there's any fiber to the paper behind him. Because it was like a dream image that I had of my daughter riding a deer and carrying a peacock and running from something, and I've put the fire back there and so anyway, with all that, I have done this over and over and over. I've painted it, I've drawn it, and this is as close to successful as I've gotten.
And then you're working on the bird from a different image, so it's kind
Oh
of.
yeah, but it's not like, I mean, you can see on the peacocks, I'm not really drawing that one. It's a little bit like that one, but I've got his head down more. He's more squished down, like she's holding him, and not necessarily that one.
So it's basically sort of freehand using that as something.
Right, but like I was saying, like when this sort of bump of formation of feathers happens, it's kind of reddish in between, and so you have your reference where that's what happens in between the feather patterns. You know, you can say, oh, this is what happens as it goes into these formations, and it gets reddish.
Yeah, I mean, I see. So it's a composite.
But I'm not, and I'm not like, a lot of people will do this and they'll Photoshop it into something. But then I'd feel like I was just copying a photo. And you know, either the process of building up a painting or the process of working from something live is the more painterly approach to it, and I wouldn't be satisfied if all I did was take a photo and copy it.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
No, because I'd feel like, oh, okay, well, my printer does that.
No, I mean,
So even though there are parts where, yes, I'm looking at a photo reference, I'm not like necessarily, I'm kind of doing out of my head. I lost my photo references before. We have no idea where I put them. And I ran home to get them, but it's like, I don't even really look at them sometimes.
yeah.
Do you Photoshop?
Not usually,
No, Photoshop. It doesn't make any sense to me to.
Yeah, I don't even,
Photoshop.
I
I mean,
don't
why-
even know
why
how to
do it?
Photoshop.
Decision.
I know how to do 2 things on Photoshop. One is when I have a picture of my artwork and I need to resize it because the competition said make sure it's 1800 pixels by, blah, blah, blah on the longest side or whatever. I know how to do that. And there are times when I get the picture and I'm like, that doesn't quite look like the artwork. So you need to maybe heighten the contrast or adjust the color just slightly so that your photo of the artwork looks like the artwork,
Yeah.
looks like the live artwork, so that you can go do prints of it.
I like
And
what you
it's-
said. I saw in some article that you like to see the hand of the artist, and I do too, because it
Yeah.
defeats the purpose if it looks like a photograph. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, you should have that ability or that skill so that you can go, wow, that looks like a real person. Or I could believe that's a deer. So you're using some of those skills that say I can do realism But yeah, if you don't see that the person made it, that's also like for the person who has the piece of art, that's their connection with the artist.
Yeah.
They can see, look, oh, she put all these pencil strokes in here. You know?
Yeah.
I watched her do it live on Facebook.
Plus, it ultimately doesn't have it's not as interesting.
Yeah,
It's just not.
it's true. Oh, it's in my hand. I'm like, these guys should be brighter. They should be brighter even though they're below. They would have something, you know, because here's the part that I'm imagining, and I don't care what picture I have. I don't have a picture of like my daughter running from a forest fire. So what's the light that would fall onto, and then you try things, and like if that doesn't work, if that's not the right color to put there, then I can come back and the best eraser is your white pencil. Because if I put that on and it's really dark, sometimes erasing it isn't the way to go, but like I can do a white over it and it like takes it back. Yeah, and then who cares if it could actually really have happened? You know, so sometimes you'll see things like, wait a minute, which way is she sitting? I'm still deciding where to put her knee. And does her hand really go there before I finish those things? When I get down to that section of the picture. But it doesn't matter because you've made like your own reality and which parts of it are believable. This is like in its own world, it's its own reality.
Right.
So.
And they all.
Well, they're famous paintings where there's total distortion.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you still believe it, you know.
Right, like the person has created their own world, you know, of what's going on here.
What if I still, you know, try to make it realistic, but you know, sometimes I have to slow down. But I rush too much. You know, I'm still learning how to
Slow down just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about drawing things, you know, drawing things that make you happy, because sometimes you have to, you know, find that peaceful place. And then art is like your therapy. I have all these like little pieces, and sometimes I'll have one of the little pieces sitting on my desk. It might be something I started as a class demo. And then you have to make that really rude call to Comcast and sit on hold for 4 hours and tell somebody to correct your bill or something. And I just like keep on coloring because it's like therapeutic while I'm keeps you from killing the person on the phone and saying things that you shouldn't say because you start being more. And then I'll post them up on Facebook. I had this pear that I did while I was calling Xfinity, and I called it a perfect pear, and I posted it up on Facebook, and then somebody bought it instantly. Like it just flew out of there. I don't know, I want a different blue. I like blues.
Well, the deer is great in here. Look at that deer.
The what?
The deer. Your deer is.
The deer has just been like, there were some positions and some renditions of it that were overpowering, so that this was like, you were just looking at this deer and then which way the head was going, because if it was going over here, it's off the paper. And if it's going that way, I had it tilted a little that way. And then this way, it's like they're both kind of looking, they're all looking at us.
Yeah.
Like, hey, why the heck aren't you running too?
Well.
Like they've taken a little pause to look at you and then they'll be on their way. But now, and also there was a time when I feel like my ability to draw fur I wasn't happy with it because the Prismacolors are very waxy, so it would smush
straight line.
all together into too much of a altogether. Like here, it's okay on the hair that it became like a shiny altogether texture. Somehow that works for hair, so I didn't really have that problem with hair. And hair is different than fur. But fur, sometimes you have to see all these little hairs that are close in height. Lots of layers of short hair and how you do that. And so I wasn't really happy with my fur ability at one point, and then it was right before the quarantine. I did that piece with the fox and the little girl and the bird on the stick. We didn't have room for it, but I decided I was going to really work on my animals. I think that was one of the next ones I did, the horse over there.
But it takes a smart person to be like.
But I started really working on animals, and I started observing people who do animals, like Bonnie Snowden, and watching their videos and attending their classes and things like that, and trying out different pencils. I still use Prismacolor because I still work on Canson Tints paper. I don't know what paper you work on.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Like, are you usually on white paper?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Canson Tints. It comes in all colors, but it's a pastel paper. The pastel side is the other side, and it's very rough. And then the colored pencil artist can use this side, which has some tooth to it. Another thing they've borrowed from the pastel artist is using pastel matte and sanded papers. They really eat your pencils. But there gets to be a texture where you can make your colored pencils almost work like pastels. Since that's not my goal. The other thing they work on is drafting film, which is ultra smooth. So I work on like mixed media board, Bristol board, if I'm using white paper. But for colored paper, I use Canson Tints because they have a broad spectrum of colors. Same with Prismacolor, it's like the widest range of colors. And then you have this, I was just going to do a little area. Like you can come in and do fur, and fur is done differently than hair because you can do that, and then you take an eraser. You can take one of these. I don't like them very much. You can take like one of these little. This one's okay. This actually creates little. It's called a reductive technique, and it creates little grooves in the. Not in the paper, but just in the wax. You can't really feel it, but they're there. So now my lighter colors can grab onto the exposed tooth of the paper. And your darker colors, I want to put on one more lighter color. A darker, lighter color. And then your darker colors have little grooves that they kind of fall in between. As long as you do that all, the direction of the fur. And then after you've done that for several layers, which right here in this area is probably several layers, then you have a slice tool. A lot of people use this one, but I don't like it. It's wiggly. I like this one. It has a nice weight to it. Feel it. It's like a weighted. If you were gonna draw with it, and you use it upside down, and I use a rounded one anyway.
You have to stand upside down to do this?
Yeah, you do. So it's good if you have a gymnastics background. Doug just asked if you have to stand upside down. Okay. And some people leave it at that. They like those scratch marks, but these scratch marks are not the thing. They're again just scratching back some of the wax.
Very nice of you.
Your white then has some place to grab onto. So you want to do your lights right back over it. because now they have somewhere to grab onto, you know, that light over dark thing. See that? Then you can take all your darks and they'll just fall in between. And you start to see like, oh my God, that looks like real fur compared to that.
Yeah.
And then I want to take one darker. And get a few darks, darks in there. You know, because things have several different tones in them usually. And then that starts to really, you could even go back in and say, I want to kind of even give it another layer of that. You could do a couple layers with this. And I'm going to take a homogenizing color, light umber, we're up for art demo. That's dark brown. There's light umber. There it is.
Little Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, Shakespeare. There's some Shakespeare that's not allowed to be said before filming. In the filming industry, it's like you do not mention, I believe it was from Macbeth.
Wow.
Or was it from Hamlet? Because it's bad luck.
Oh, it's bad luck.
Yeah, I was reading a mystery book and apparently like you do not say. And then there were only 13 people at dinner and that's another bad luck. So then look at that compared to where it was before, which before it was like, oh, you're almost done. No, like I did like 2 more layers in those few inches. And then that like really looks like fur. So it's like the face compared to, down here on the legs, you know, down here down in this area of the picture, you can see you could go with a little bit more. But it's kind of fun. It's almost like, have you ever done scratchboard?
No.
Scratchboard is cool.
Scratchboard is cool. Have you ever embroidered?
No.
It's almost like, I feel like scratchboard or embroidery that I'm putting in a stitch for every piece of hair. Because it's like every little stroke.
So what's fun with scratchboard is you're painting, you're drawing with the white, not with the black.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So and you know what? I love doing that with colored pencil, just having a black piece of paper and different pressures of white, just like the different sizes of the scratches.
Yeah.
So
It's just a different way of looking at it.
yeah. It's just backwards. In fact, my class on Wednesday is going to be drawing wildlife at night, and we're going to be drawing on black paper. We're going to do a nocturnal animal, and I've picked a raccoon, and there's still room in that class for anybody listening who wants to sign up. Just go to leasearts.com.
Drawing with gray paper.
Yeah, that's why I always use a colored paper, because then you've got that kind of chiaroscuro beginning.
Well, but you can add white to it, and have the contrast of the white and gray.
Right.
You can add black to it, so you can work both directions back to an image, which is fun.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm back on the feathers again. So, Alicia.
It's been 50 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Pretty exciting.
And can you see if anybody has any questions, or are you looking at it over there? Are
Well-
you looking at it on your phone?
Yeah.
Kimberly Ray asks, light umber, wherefore art thou?
So with linoleum, you can-
Light umber.
Yeah, she says, light umber, wherefore art
Wherefore
thou?
art thou? Yeah.
So you're leaving the parts that are going to be
Who is that, Kimberly?
moving.
Kimberly Ray.
Kimberly Ray.
You're not-
Hi, Kimberly Ray. You need to come out to Frederick.
We're moving
You need to
everything
come
up.
out and visit me and see my house and come to the gallery, or just come on another day and just
It's not like
we'll
we're-
go to lunch, or out in the evening.
Well, I love the fire in the back.
Especially if you've been drawing.
The fire was fun.
You get sort of locked in.
Yeah, it looks done.
It does, and I feel like the fire and the smoky forest behind are done. I feel like there's an area in between and down here. So it like really, unless I wanted to cut off this much of the picture, like that much is done except I wanted to redo the deer.
Yeah, the deer need a little
And
work.
then I was being picky and going back to her hair again. So when I started to put in the gouache for her dress, I was like, oh yeah, and I'll put some of that highlight here and I'll put some on the back of the deer and
Now, see, to me, it looks almost finished. But yeah, like you said.
yeah, they're little places. And because I skip around like that, it's like,
I like to skip around too. I can't stay in one place.
no, I can't. There are people who do the picture so neat from the upper left to down here so that they never run their
Yeah.
hand and smooth
Your
it.
people though, you know?
Yeah.
Well, no, I've read about different artists.
They're from
over
that
there.
band OCDC.
You know, my dad used to eat his breakfast. He would start in the top left-hand corner of the plate and work his way down to the bottom right-hand corner of the plate and eat everything all the way down.
I'm a little more of a bread and jam for Francis. You have to have one bite of everything and make it come out even.
Right?
And at least I'm not my older sister. She's like, she'll mix it all together on her plate and say it's all going the same place anyway.
Well, that would be my dad too.
Huh?
Yeah, he would chop everything up.
Yeah, I can end. So anyway, if anybody wants to ask more questions, join one of my classes. Go to lisarts.com and go to the classes page and join us for color pencil classes. They're all online on Zoom. And I'm at Eastside Gallery, 313 East Patrick Street in Frederick, Maryland. Come on by.